What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm really excited to share something very special with you. Today I have my very first guest on the channel, and she's super lovely, and I'm just going to allow her to introduce herself.
Hi guys, I'm Jessica Connell. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and executive coach at my practice, Confident Mind Psychotherapy and Coaching. And I'm excited today to share with you a little bit about what's called EMDR and how to find a mental health professional or a therapist that's right for you, and just kind of talk all things therapy with Dr. Markel.
Hell yeah, let's do it. All right, so let's jump right into it. So tell us, what is EMDR and what does it stand for? How do you use it in your practice?
Okay, yeah, EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And what EMDR does is it helps release trauma from the nervous system. Typically, I think if people have heard of EMDR, they think that you have to use it like a catastrophic traumatic event. But you don't have to. It doesn't have to be what people kind of think of as PTSD. It has to be something that you've been through that is very, very tormenting and detrimental and catastrophic. It can be what we call little t trauma, which is developmental traumas that kind of stick with us from childhood, and they come along with us for our entire ride up to adulthood, and kind of affect our behaviors and our thought processes and the way we interact with the world at large now. So what we can do for these developmental traumas is kind of like what we did. I did a little bit of an informational session with Dr. Markel, and that was more of a little t, a developmental trauma, but nonetheless stays with you. So what we try to do, so what EMDR does is it has this bilateral movement, whether it be through tapping, or I actually have little buzzers that tap back and forth. As we set the stage for whatever trauma that is. We kind of go through, like we have a picture in our mind of what the scene is that was a traumatic event. And what we do is we bring in wise figures, nurturing figures, and protective figures. These are called our resources, right? And they can be people that we actually know. They could be characters from a movie. They could be characters from a book. They could be our pets. But what we do is in a kind of like a dreamlike state, we close our eyes and go through a daydream of that scene, and then bring in whatever resources make us feel safer in that scene. And as we do that with the bilateral tapping or the bilateral buzzers, it helps to release trauma from the nervous system.
Yeah. And I remember with our session, you asked me to bring in my nurturing figures, and what were the rest of the figures that you asked me to bring in?
Wise figures and protective figures.
Nurturing, wise, and protective. And I just remember I brought in my grandmother, my mom, my dog. Those were the ones that stick out with me. And I remember thinking back to a scene where I was in the living room, when I was a child, and thinking back to reading the Bible and thinking oh no, I'm going to hell for being gay. And it really transformed and changed the way that I thought about that memory, because it's something that stood out and sort of stuck with me for a long time. And so it was really helpful to just reframe the memory in a more positive way.
Can you talk a little bit about how you brought in the figures to the scene?
I think I remember there was just dancing.
Yes.
There was dancing, and there was just celebration, and there was just a lot of positivity and happiness. And when I think back to that scene before we did the session, I just remember feeling really sad. I just remember being back in that scene and just feeling really, really sad, and just feeling really helpless, feeling like there was nothing I could do. And I remember leaving from the session and I felt very empowered. I felt like I had a team of people behind me that were on my side and just there to support me. So it was really helpful. So thank you for that.
Yeah, awesome.
So tell me, tell the viewers who could benefit from EMDR therapy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it can be something very, very traumatic, an accident or something that's catastrophic. But I think, honestly, a lot of us, and almost all of us, could benefit, whether it's being, reading the Bible, or having that kind of doctrine tell you it's wrong to be gay, right? Or somebody bullying you at school, a parent yelling at you. It really is any of those things from childhood that we still think back to. It can also be something of kind of exposure therapy in a way if you did something that you were embarrassed about in a certain scene, right? So now you never want to, I don't know, walk down the stairs or something because you fell one time, or public speaking is a big thing.
Sure.
It's a lot of different things. Even we can do it around addictions and compulsive eating and stuff like that. And how can we kind of reframe? Because that is traumatic each time it happens to us, right? And our relationship with alcohol, so like where that started, like where it became a problem, and actually try to reframe that too, bringing in these figures.
There seems to be like a wide range of, I don't want to call them problems, but traumas.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you covered that when you said little T's and big T's.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be a wide range of people that can benefit from this.
I mean, I think we can all say we've gone through traumatic experiences, from big T's to the small T, and all, like, we could just kind of say like it's all the little T, all like the sizes in between, right? And things stick with us, right? We got these negative interjects that make us avoid things, say we can't do it, really hurt our confidence and how we interact with the world and how we move forward. So it really helps with, even just like, talk therapy also can help with those, reframing those interjects to the more positive ones that we learn in here. But this goes a little bit further, where we kind of don't even know what's going in our body when something is triggering us. And so that releasing that trauma from the nervous system is really important, to be able to slow down, understand what's going on, what's affecting us, and then change our behaviors moving forward to things that, to behaviors and actions that we're more proud of in our everyday life.
Absolutely. And is it something, is it something that like, is it something because we avoid the issue? Is it because we avoid the trauma that it sort of lays hidden and we don't know how it's affecting us, and we're sort of facing it in this more positive way?
Yeah, it could be avoidance, right? It could be we just didn't know that it's in the subconscious, right? That it affected us. It could also be, a lot of times we don't normalize that. If I'm thinking back to this time when I'm in middle school and nobody talked to me because I just moved somewhere, on the lunch line, and that one day I had to sit all by myself, right? When you're a kid, time moves really, really slow, and that really affects you, right? And so sometimes we don't even know that that's happening, but also what I'm going back to is, it's normalized that stuff comes up for a lot of people, right? And sometimes we don't want to admit it. And when we're in therapy, we start to admit those things and normalize them. Like, a lot of people have been through that. That's a normal thought that you're having. Right. And so it really is a safe space to release that too. So one, it could be unconscious, right? And we can help figure out where it comes from by kind of digging deep into thought patterns and things that have happened, and then it might pop up, right? Two, you might be hiding it because think like, I can't believe I'm still thinking about this. And three, and not to end there, I'm sure there's plenty of different, plenty more, but it can be avoidance of not really wanting to go there, because if I touch that, what does that mean? Can that break me?
The word that's coming up right now is shame. And like, maybe there's a lot of shame around feeling a certain way. Absolutely. And like, just not knowing that it's okay, like that you went through it. It's like, how do you move forward?
Exactly. Because a lot of times the shame is, I am something bad, right? Like, if that is still bothering me, I am weak, right? So it's something that's like deeply about you. It's not, it's irrational and it's more emotional, right? But nevertheless stays with us, and that provides some sort of negative lens and cloud in how we're, interacting with the world.
Is there any overlap between therapy and coaching, or? Yeah, I would think so. So for me, the reason that I'm a certified executive coach also, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. Tell us about your story.
So originally I wanted to be a psychologist, and went to school for psychology. Got a little sidetracked after I graduated, ended up working in finance for about 8 years. Really liked it for a while.
You get sidetracked and go into finance.
Well, it's kind of appealing, nice offices.
Yeah.
Pays pretty good.
Yeah.
But I wanted to work in HR.
Yeah.
And then I was going to go to school part time with that.
Got it.
Right. Because I really wanted to, once I got out of school, wanted to get into the city. So you have to have an income, all that good stuff. But I ended up getting sidetracked and going more onto infrastructure side of finance and doing well and liking it for a while. Then kind of realizing that the people component was always at large for me, and that's the part that kind of interests me, and getting called in to help intermediate and mediate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For interpersonal reasons, kind of drew me back to going back to school. So I stayed in finance for a little bit, went to school at night, got my clinical social work degree Master of Social Work, and then I'm a licensed clinical social worker now after getting my clinical hours. But as I was doing that, I realized there's a big need to bring therapy into the corporate world, right? And maybe it's starting a little bit at this point, but not quite there yet.
Sure.
But the way to kind of bring it's sort of like a wellness program, and helping people be their best self is by executive coaching. So I got a professional executive coach certification too. So I mean, the difference is obviously psychotherapy is clinical.
Sure.
We can diagnose. It is more so digging into your past and feelings and pathologies and all of that stuff. Where coaching is a little different, even though it's helpful to know some of those things from your past and to know how to move forward. It's more of like, let's take your strengths, let's set goals, and help you figure out what those goals should be, coach you through what the next plan is, kind of step-by-step type of stuff. So if you integrate the two, which,
sure,
it kind of can happen, but, like you kind of have to pick one or the other.
Got it.
But as a therapist and a coach, it naturally kind of combines a little bit together sometimes, right?
Because it's like your past kind of affects where you're going to a certain degree. And
it's also kind of just, I guess what we call not necessarily a modality, but I use a bunch of different modalities, but my style. I am, like a lot of their therapists have very different styles. I am very directive and participatory and results driven. So, in case-by-case basis and whatever the client's unique need is, we do a lot of like brainstorming and goal setting and coming up with plans. So that's why it can look a little bit more like coaching in a way.
Got it.
But that can also be, there's parts of CBT that are like that too, where we come up with a plan little by little. And but the therapeutic side is, it can be more so kind of digging into the past, and you need to be more clinically trained for certain parts of psychotherapy rather than coaching.
Got it. Okay, let's see what other. I think I just had a few more questions. This is going really well. It's so cool. So we talked about who could benefit from EMDR. What would you say to someone who has thought about therapy, or who was thinking about taking that plunge but is kind of scared? What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say shop around.
Okay.
Right, and that it can take a little while. Don't get discouraged to find somebody that's a right fit for you.
Okay.
Try not to let if there's negative experiences from the past cloud what you could be doing now, because that could have just been a wrong fit for you.
Sure.
Or if it's not what you need, or you could graduate from that, it's not what you needed then, but you don't need now. I think trying to identify that it doesn't need to be something that feels laborious or upsetting or dark all the time. I have a lot of fun with my clients, right? And especially as we normalize our anxieties and sometimes we have to kind of like make fun of ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
I'm
so good at that.
I think we both are, right?
Yeah.
And it can be fun along the way. Of course, some of the stuff that we uncover can be upsetting, but I think afterward, like you said, empowering, right? So it feels good when you're leaving, especially when you're kind of pumped up to tackle some of that results-driven work.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Don't give up on the first try, if you meet somebody that it doesn't feel good for you, whether that's individuals or couples. It has to feel good, and that's okay to try to find somebody, if you go to a therapist, understand you can shop around. We get that. We want
Sure.
you to, because if you come back to us, then we know that is a good fit for you,
Yeah.
And I would say also, it's hard to find a therapist just like on ZocDoc or, kind of just reading stuff online. Don't be afraid to ask your friends, right?
Okay.
Because if your friends are similar to you,
Yeah.
or someone that's gone through something similar, or one of your friends went to couples therapy or something like that, don't be afraid to ask for the referral, because a lot of times if they like them and had a good experience, well, who's a good review? A friend is a good review, or somebody is
Absolutely.
a good
Yeah, for
reviewer,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
For the person that you'd be working with.
Yeah. See, what else? Is there anything else you want to say about EMDR or therapy or coaching?
Let's see. Well, I think we covered a lot of it.
We've
right?
covered a ton, so much.
Yeah, EMDR is a great tool if you're kind of feeling stuck, and like you can't move past certain feelings of avoidance, or like not being able to take steps forward because of some of these scenes that we're talking about. And just don't be afraid to try it.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into when we did EMDR, but I came in with an open mind. And like I said, I just remember leaving and just feeling so empowered. It was like the best feeling. Like I was walking out of here and I was like, holy shit, I can do anything.
Yeah. Imagine if we did an informational session,
and that was
right?
just literally one session.
Yeah. And so if you keep doing it and work out all of, I'm sure if you could think of it, there'd be more of those little ones that would work out, and it kind of just keeps releasing and releasing and releasing.
About how many sessions would you say that it would take someone to feel like, I guess it would also depend on the level of trauma as well.
Yeah.
But about say a small T.
A small T, well, it really can just take one session sometimes to go through that one scene. It depends on how big the scene is and how interweaved we are with that scene, because it could take a little while to get to the end of it.
Sure.
Right? We were playing around.
We
went quick.
Yeah.
But I would say 1 or 2 sessions for each little T.
Okay.
Right? But we could have a bunch of little T's that are connected to each other. So it's not like talk therapy, everybody's different with their results driven work. A lot of times that's months or years, depending on what, how you like to use therapy. But EMDR, we can work those things out more quickly. And it really just depends on how many things you can come up with, scenes you can come up with that you want to get out. And it's important to talk about them in between too. So we can do a balance of EMDR and talk therapy.
Okay. Well, this has been so great. I'm so glad that this finally happened.
I know. I'm so glad we did that.
It's been months in the making.
Yes.
So tell people how they can find you, how they can get more information about you, your practice, EMDR, whatever you want to say.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm Jessica Connell. My practice is called Confident Mind Psychotherapy and Coaching. You can find us at www.cmpcnyc.com, and you can reach us at 917-747-1435. We are located right in Grand Central in the Gray Bar building. So if you want to come in person, you can do that. And we also offer virtual as well. And we have 5 therapists underneath us now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys next time.
All right, bye.